Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we're on Spite Reach Blast Pass playing as the Wood Elves against the forces of the Skaven. And this is a matchup that previously I felt was pretty heavily in the Wood Elves' favor. But lately I've come to the conclusion it is a little bit more balanced, I think, than I initially thought. Definitely Skaven have some things going for them. And you definitely have to watch out for Skaven swarm tactics. So with this build, kind of looking to abuse it's a very bad leadership on Skaven, have some counters to their artillery with some Stalkers, but otherwise looking to clear up lots of chaff with a pretty boxy offensive build. So for my lord here, running a good old ancient tree man, not much to be said there. We needed a caster because we brought two Stalkers. He fits the bill. It's either him or Durthu. But Durthu has no heals, is more expensive, and it doesn't provide the same, I think, overall benefit to the whole army. You miss out on the Call of the Woods. You miss out, of course, on Lord of Life, Life Bloom, Earthblood, Regrowth, and Awakening the Wood. And the cost does matter, so I think that's mostly the reason we're running an Ancient Tree Man. You don't really need the high offensive stats on Durthu, in my opinion, though obviously something like a Manticore summon can be nice. Besides that, here we do have the Sword of Shielding as well as the Power Stone. So the Ancient Tree Man, of course, an absolute beast. Going to be buffing up these Dryads with Call of the Woods, healing them, beating up on blobs with Awakening the Wood, and sort of able to sustain himself a little bit with that Scroll of Shielding. Alongside him, as we mentioned before, two Stalkers. This unit is amazing at killing artillery pieces and enemy lords and heroes. Can absolutely tear them to shreds over time, and especially squishy Skaven casters and lords. They're just so stupidly good against them. Basically like a lower risk Skink Chief, so they're pretty nuts. For our front line, 5 units of Dryads. These guys will basically dumpster all the lower end Skaven troops. Now they're not going to do well against Stormwind, which my opponent did bring here in some numbers. But against everything else, they're going to do great. So the unit of Eternal Guard, because I had some points left over and I was trying to make a tournament legal build. 2 units of Deepwood Scouts, 1 on either end. These guys are with Swift Shard, so they're mostly there to mulch through Slinger units, as well as Gutter Runners, Death Runners, that sort of stuff, with their magic damage, bypass, and physical resist, and just high DPS. In the back, single unit Sisters of the Thorn. These guys, of course, will be providing additional useful buffs and debuffs with Shield of Thorns and Curse of Onrire. Plus, they've got good mobility, poison damage, respectable range, and physical resist. They've actually got a nice little bit of 40% physical resist, so they can just mulch through Skaven infantry. Finally, 2 Wild Riders to do some backline harass and be a general pain in the rear. Now, for my opponent, he did decide to go super wide, and when I say super wide, I mean super wide. Look at that, 2,000 troops, has me outnumbered about 3 to 1. For his Lord, he is rolling with Lord Skrulk. So the Filth Rat here. Now, Skrulk, in my opinion, not the best choice in this matchup because he's very susceptible to sniping. But he, of course, does have some great tools. He's not a terrible melee combatant. He's got Pestilent Birth, Vermintide, as well as Pestilent Breath, so lots of good tools to crack squishy infantry. That's what else bring, as well as just spam you with summons. Finally, he does have Liber Bonicus to Lord Snipe or target specific units, which is pretty nice, especially alongside an Assassin who's got Trophy Heads and the free Smoke Bombs, so definitely some anti-Lord pressure there. Sort of forward deployed here, my opponent does have 3 units of Skaven Slaves as well as a single unit of Night Runners and a single unit of Skaven Slave Spears as well, so these Slingers, of course, looking to harass and poke away at my main line and hoping to sort of escape to the safety of the main line before their main line before I can catch them. Now, for his own main line, my opponent did bring a single unit of Stormmen alongside 2 Stormmen Halberds, so it's only an expensive investment here, really. These guys are very powerful against Wood Elves. They can basically beat down everything except Wild Rangers, and Wild Rangers are not great in this matchup for other reasons. They're so easy to shoot down and run down with Rat Ogres and stuff like that. And artillery susceptible, all that sort of stuff. And alongside that, a bunch of Clan Rats. Now, the Clan Rats, not very good against Dryads, but of course, when you just need to swarm, when you need to compromise backlines, they're a very, very good unit for that. Finally, on the flanks, my opponent does have me pincered here a little bit. He's got a unit of Gutter Runners with poison, as well as some Death Runners over here. Mirror on the other side, though these Gutter Runners only lack poison. So you can see he's collapsing rather quickly on me. Looking to envelop me, he of course had visuals almost immediately on his army, and so that's definitely going to be a little rough. In the meantime here, I'm going to sally out with the Wild Riders. Now, you can see me charging into the Skaven Slave Spears here, because I realized that they were going to intercept me otherwise. And I figured I'm not going to catch these Night Runners, so let's get these Skaven Slave Spears. We're going to run them over. They don't have charge defense against large. Their bonus for charge isn't going to matter too much against Wild Riders. Honestly, they're just such trash that it doesn't matter. So we dumpster them a little bit and then get onto these Night Runners. So my opponent in a very bad position very early on, getting compromised a little bit. The Sisters of the Thorn here overrunning him, and so all this cavalry really able to do a bit of a clean sweep of the backline. In the meantime, over here, one of our Stalkers did pop a shot of Arrow of Kurnus into these Stormmen, dropping 20 models on him, so doing lots of work. And that's one of the things. Arrow of Kurnus, very useful tool for cracking artillery. It's got 600 range and can kill artillery models semi-reliably. But stack that on top of its sort of arc and flat trajectory towards the end of its shot, and you can kind of get a somewhat amber spear in there. It's kind of like an amber spear. It's definitely not bad. So in the meantime, these Skaven slaves being shattered and torn to shreds, and just these guys routed before they even got engaged, really, just because of their friends routing. So rough stuff for them. But nonetheless, my opponent does sort of stick around. You can see another Arrow of Kurnus going in, but nowhere near as effective. Kind of whiffs a little bit. Only kills 12 Stormmen. But we are now going to start focusing our Stormmen fire on Skrulk, the Filth Rat, because of course he is a very susceptible, very juicy target. Only has 30 armor, and he's gonna start suffering. We can see those shots coming in, homing in, punching through the Stormmen bodyguard around him, and it's actually gonna be adding to the Waystalker's kill count there. And that shot over there actually overshot, which is rare, usually hit, but we're going to start whittling him down. Over here, Awakening of the Wood did go down, but unfortunately in the back, huge misplan on my part. I'd hidden these Deepwood Scouts in the back. I'd kind of hoped that, you know, we'll wait till my opponent's engaged, then I'll push forward to get some shots. I turn around fire at will to conserve ammo, you know, yada yada. Smart stuff. Up until the point that it wasn't smart. My opponent just got his Death Runners in here. He's got his Gutter Runners. By the time I turned off on fire at will again, it's way too late. These guys got wrecked. And the worst part is Deepwood Scouts are amazing against Gutter Runners and Death Runners. They shred these units with contemptuous ease. But because I turned off fire at will and just let them sit there and then focus my micro up here, especially on the Waystalkers, I blew it. Lost about 1,700 gold worth of troops for no gain. So basically, how not to use your Deepwood Scouts. A lesson by Wyvern. Elsewhere, though, the Dryad's doing some okay work. The Air Corps is going to mulch through these lesser troops. The Stormmen actually get routed, probably because they're under fire from the Waystalkers. The Waystalkers focusing on Skrulk, or missing and hitting Skrulk in the process, or hitting the Stormmen in the process, or hitting Skrulk, but punching through troops around him in the process. In the meantime, these summons getting routed off, and the Eternal Guard and Blob with the Treeman and the Dryads kind of are holding their own here. A-okay. Over here, the Wild Riders do commit, trying to shove off these Death Runners. Same thing over here, trying to force off my opponent's light mob, which, had I been, like I said, smarter with my scouts earlier, this would not be a problem, but it is now. So we got to deal with it somehow and try to recover, because the balance about right now, dead even. Over here, the Awakening of the Wood does punch through some of these rats, doing quite a bit of hurt, helping these Dryads start winning out. And in the back line, it's definitely a bit of a sweep. These Skaven slaves and the clan rats are being overrun by the sisters and kind of dumpstered. And my opponent has basically lost most of his skirmish capacity outside of these backline troops. Over here, unfortunately, the Wild Riders are forced off, forced to pull away. These guys completely routed, but the Waystalkers continue chipping away at the filthy rat. And you can see my opponent here pulling Stormmen, trying to get in there. But the thing is, outside of staying away and just staying out of range, Skrulk can't do much, really, to deny Waystalker sniping. He just doesn't have... He can't dodge. He's too slow. It's like trying to dodge Fireball with a Moving Lord. It just doesn't work. So he's getting picked apart. He's getting shot. Now over here, my opponent is getting Death Runners on this Waystalker, which is going to be a bit of an issue. So we're going to pull our Eternal Guard and save his bacon. And now Skrulk is in full flight. The poor little Filth Rat running for dear life, running, trying to escape at all costs. As the Waystalker shells continue pouring in, I was kind of kiting and firing with the Waystalkers. Kite, fire, and Skrulk now down to 215 HP, running for dear life, overshadowed by the Treeman back there. And he's down to 26 HP, just fleeing, trying to escape. And if he sticks around, my opponent might have a chance here. But in comes the arrow, the fateful shot, coming in, arcing, curving, guided, of course, and smacks the rat, just punching through him. You can see he's flopping there, perhaps regretting having popped out his own eyes at this point, because that maybe you could have seen that arrow then. But the poor guy just topples over and he's dead, and that's going to have a huge impact, because Skavens have horrible leadership. And you can see those clan rats immediately went from holding up at like 20 leadership to nothing and just breaking immediately. Same thing with these Death Runners, these beat up clan rats. All these broken beat up units suddenly dropping by about 16 leadership because of that, because of the loss of Skrulk. The Ancient Treeman here actually in a bit of a grim spot. We hit him with the Scroll Shielding. You can see his resistances right now are through the roof. He's got 44% or 42% physical resist, 22% ward save, so he's in the 60%. Plus he's got respectable melee defense. Actually not right now because trophy heads, but normally he's got that. And he's still getting torn apart. It's definitely a very, very bad spot for him. But everywhere else, it is starting to be endgame. The Fear and Terror is going to be very useful to Sister of the Thorn here, having such a good impact, running down all these trash troops. Now the Waystalkers can start shifting their fire. They pop a few shots into these Stormmen, whittling them down. You can see some of those shots kind of wasted because I guess and you can see that arrow current is just so badly aimed. It should have gone straight into the blob. If it went into the blob and actually in for center mass, it would have been great, but I guess it's stupid. It just didn't go in. So regardless, these Stormmen do get terror routed by the Wild Rider charge to their back. Over these Dryads are joining into the fray. My opponent is basically out of ammo at this point, so these Night Runners are no longer as much of a threat, or the Gutter Runners and the Clan Rats and all them. And Waste Stalkers are now going to start popping shots at this poor assassin, and of course with those homing missiles there is very little chance of foot troops dodging. My opponent does pop concealment bombs, but he's too close to my troops. He gets spotted and he's getting torn to shreds, so he's running on all fours here, just scampering away, trying to escape, and he just goes down like a 9-pin. You can see his sword's just spinning out of his hands there. And that's going to be game, basically. The Tree Man is barely holding on to dear life here with less than 1,000 HP, but at this point it just doesn't matter. These Death Runners are going to get terror out of the Gunner Runners as well, and my opponent is forced to GG out. It's a bit of a brutal back and forth game, and definitely one that I think almost got swung in my opponent's favor by my misplay. My throwing away of the 2 Deepwood Scouts was disastrous, and in fact Deepwood Scouts are amazing against Gutter Runners and Death Runners because they just do so much damage in a burst. Really solid, but this micro there, and ended up hurting me quite a lot. Everything else though held up well. The Waste Stalkers, of course, carrying really nicely, just able to snipe down Skrulk and pick away at those elite troops. And of course the Cav, just as usual, amazing. And the Tree Man did alright as well. The terror, especially in the late game when Skrulk was gone, is just so nasty for the poor rats. As for my opponent's build, I do think it's pretty cool. I do think it's a pretty wide and effective build. Personally, I do like having a few Doom Wheels in there for that added mobility, but definitely with the width, I think it's very solid. I just considered switching the Lord out for something a bit tankier, maybe Tretch, just to get that survivability in there. Or maybe even Lord on a Bell, just to be survivable against this sort of harass. You can hide him from Way Watchers, just hide away in the back of the map, and pull him up if needed later. But regardless, besides that, well played to my opponent here, Mason. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it entertaining and fun. As usual, if you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, don't hesitate to post them. I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. Do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.